So I'm Dan Hawks, Global Partner Strategy Lead for Media, Entertainment, Games, and Sports at AWS. And I want to thank Team Veritone for asking me to join this panel. I was excited to see that Lumen was going to be on the panel and thought we would tell the story of data and AI through live sports. So I'm going to turn it over to these guys to do their introductions and maybe just think about, as you're doing your introduction, what does the intersection of data, sports, and AI look like for your company? So Peter, you want to go first?
I feel like, can I give away some compute right now to get people to fill up the seats from AWS? That'd be great. I'm Peter Leeb.
Come on in.
Yes, everybody come in from the back. Veritone is an enterprise AI platform. We manage vast amounts of audio and video data on behalf of sports leagues, entertainment companies, brands, governments, and local municipalities. And so we try to build an interesting panel for everybody around the entire infrastructure stack of sports and live sports, with a number of examples given what we've just witnessed over the past couple months of some of the biggest sporting events in the world.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Stevens. I'm a partner solutions architect at AWS. I've been here about 10 years. I think...
Like a little closer.
A little closer? Oh, okay. A little better.
That's great.
Yeah. So partner solutions architect, been at AWS about 10 years in the media and entertainment space. I think what's interesting to me about the intersection of sports and AI is, now you can get clips really quickly from any of the players you like, and you get to watch and see their plays like in real time almost, and see them on social media a bit more and a bit more quickly with kind of what they're doing, and you can follow them, which is to me pretty interesting.
Hi, everyone. So Lisa Gerber, Senior Director of Media and Entertainment at Lumen. And I think what I would say is interesting for us is that, connectivity and infrastructure for live sports has always been mission critical. And today with AI, it's more like it's existential. So it's really raised the stakes. I would also say that, Lumen is the network for AI. That's actually our tagline. So there you go.
Love that. Let's double click a little bit more on that. And with sports, talk about ground to cloud. So can you just talk a little bit more about the Lumen offering and how you get broadcast signals and data to cloud?
Sure. So Lumen is really broken up into kind of two segments for media and entertainment. We have live media, which the heart of which is Vivix Broadcast Solutions. We also look at studio creative infrastructure. The heart of that for us is network as a service and our edge offering. The ethos across all of it, though, really is the same. It's about security. It's about staying off the public internet entirely. It's about being fully on demand so it can spin up and down again as needed, which is crucial for live events. It's crucial for productions. And then also we have that 24/7 broadcast specialized support, which is specific to Vivix. The interesting thing about Vivix is that for over 30 years, Vivix has been about moving video. And it's really not about moving video anymore. That's really changed. It's about moving video and data. It doesn't always happen together, but the relationship between video and data can be fragile. So that's why it's about redundant paths. It's about constantly monitoring the feeds, staying off the public internet. And the goal of all of that is just to make sure that data makes it to AWS and Veritone, as efficiently and cleanly as possible.
It's a great foundation to earn trust with customers who want to do broadcast events and low latency, right? Zero risk. That's great. So Mark, let's talk about the broadcast ingest and what do the data structures look like and landing on cloud, and what are some of those factors that customers might want to consider for their data strategy on AWS?
Yeah, sure. So if we're talking about like a live sporting event, you have a camera feed, maybe multiple camera feeds, 10, 12 more. And besides just the video, inside that video, you have time code, right? So you can track, or point to any point in time, a piece of video where someone, had a slam dunk or had a foul or whatever. Also inside that feed is maybe closed captioning. If not, you might also be, grabbing the text out of that video, and storing that as well, along with maybe, third-party feeds of data, also giving you a play-by-play, like what the current scores are, that kind of stuff. And then towards, one other thing you're going to do is you're going to take frames of video And we know now that we can take a frame of video, feed it to a large language model like a Claude, like a Nova, and get a bunch of metadata back about that piece of video. So, we have all of this data, and you have to think about how quickly you want the turnaround to be for someone to access that either the video or the metadata. And so the video is going to live in somewhere, it's going to live in S3, right? It's very easy to store, HLS or Dash, 2 to 10 second clips, right in in S3, and have an easy way to address back to those with a prefix on that piece of video. Also, what's good about storing your content on S3 is that you can life cycle it automatically. So, after, maybe 30 days, the game content has gotten a little bit cold and you want to cycle it off to save money. In terms of all this metadata that you're generating and ingesting, that can go somewhere like a DynamoDB where there's, less than 10 milliseconds of read latency to get that data back. There's also, if you go to our booth, there's also something called the Time Addressable Media Store, which is sort of a new technology. And what it does, it's an API layer that sits on top of the object store. And so instead of actually, saying that, hey, this time code, 5 seconds in is at this offset into an object. Now you're just saying, give me this. There's a stream ID or a UUID and then a timestamp. So, you're not having to think about what that translation is between what the time code is and where that is in the media. So that's sort of how we think about, ingesting that content.
Yeah, that's great. Peter, now we had Lumen, as a information highway bringing ground to cloud, and we've got different ways to ingest a broadcast stream and data. What's Veritone's role in a master control room for live sporting events and AI?
Yeah. Well, and you just mentioned the ingest part, right? We look at it more a little bit from ingest to invoice and actual having real world outcomes to everything that's going inside the systems. So if you look at over the last 3 months, our platform ingested 3% of the global live sports ecosystem.
Oh, wow.
3%. Imagine all those key events, all the key moments happening around the world, running through our systems, right? With the infrastructure of an AWS and a Lumen, but also that is fully orchestrated across the board. And so I think what you've seen, the commonality in the walking the floors these days, a lot of people are just talking about models. What model is better? What model is going to extract the best data? What model is going to do this for me? That's great, but it's all about the orchestration layer of what can we do with the data, with the videos at the point after ingestion. Where am I going to send the data? How am I going to govern the data? How am I going to prevent any leaks of the data? What are my workflows? What are my endpoints right now? We'll get into it a little bit of the use cases as more people come in, which is great. But there's an entire agentic commerce layer that our team also handles at the same time. So we need to know not just what happened in that exact moment across different sporting events, but what can I do with the data? Where am I pushing the data? How am I transacting against the data? And how am I using a 30, 40, 50, 60-year archive against similar data to tell the story that our customers need to tell? That all needs to happen in seconds with the infrastructure AWS provides.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And so let's just double click on the data strategy and governance piece. So when you're talking about ingesting data, like what has been your experience with customers and them making different decisions for data governance?
Yeah, every customer operates a little bit differently, right? Every workflow is a little different than the next. It's years and years of perfecting an actual orchestration and a workflow in a secure pathway with all these different partners right now. And especially in this world where models are now consuming the content and all of these workflows and distribution points are being built, we need to make sure the data is completely secure, whether you want to use that sports data for your own applications, for third-party models, for other workflows and work streams to transact against right now. And if we've seen anything from the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of vulnerabilities in the world of AI, right? A lot of cybersecurity issues across the board. That cannot happen in a sports industry and an entertainment industry. That data is their prized possession, whether it's the real-time data in sports or their archival data that they're building their own models off of and their own new work streams in infrastructure today. So as much as we like to talk about change management and transformation, it comes with time, and security is the number one issue. that we're dealing with, that I know you guys are dealing with at the same time, because none of these new use cases can happen without that governed infrastructure like our platform and other platforms provide today. The use cases just will never happen. And so we need to get customers comfortable with all of these new scenarios in order to create change management and not just say transformation for the sake of transformation.
Yeah, we're having a lot of customer conversations about that data pipeline and how to leverage that for downstream use cases. So when I think of downstream use cases, I think localization, just being able to have that content go global. Highlight generation. So Mark touched on it and you did as well. And what we're seeing is that the latency for turning around sports highlights and being able to put them back out is shrinking through advancements in these technologies. And the other is contextual advertising. And so I think a couple of years ago, when we were talking about contextual advertising, it seemed like a great idea. We could probably execute that in a VOD platform without any issue. Now with the turnaround of AI and ingesting data and be able to map it to the IAB standards, we're in a position to be able to use contextual advertising in live events. So that's really exciting.
I think it's a great example. We were talking about this the other week. Look at everything that has to truly orchestrate itself. There's a game-winning bank shot that has happened. There have been many game-winning shots over many years, right? We need to understand that live moment. We need to understand every scenario that's contextual to that live moment so that our customers, marketers, partners, sponsors, right, can gravitate and grab all of this information in near real time, right? That zero kind of, latency, couple seconds, and be able to push it out for all their different use cases today.
Yeah.
That is a lot of workflow that has to be built and has been built and completely automated to now achieve the goal of the end customers, right? Whether it's fan engagement or revenue or all of these different use cases right now, it all starts with the underlying data, right? We always say it all starts with data right now. And so for many years, I think the industry has hounded this idea. The question always becomes, well, who's managing it? Where are the budgets for it? I don't have budgets today. What are the use cases for it, right? We've democratized a lot of this tooling now to enable partners to be able to do such interesting things on both a fan level and a business level today.
And to that point too, like on the workflow side of it and on the latency, is there a world for you where there are sort of two layers? There's the edge for that faster latency. Let's say, you probably have better scenarios than I can think of, but an audience member rushes the field suddenly or a camera angle needs to change, and that kind of round trip to AWS might be just a little bit too much latency for that deeper, for that they can do that deeper enrichment, but then the inferencing that has to happen super fast can happen on an edge. So you can have kind of both that you bring to bear. Is that?
Absolutely. I actually turn to two people in the audience and say, how much quicker can we get it? Right? I mean, that's the question. How much quicker in a secure way, right? Where we're not breaking anything, can we get that content and can our partners leverage that content for all the myriad of use cases? And so that's the goal right now today. I look at the furthest end of the extreme, which is the agentic commerce layer, which is part of our business too, on behalf of these leagues, which is the monetization layer. Well, the monetization layer, again, is only as good as the governed data behind it. A hole-in-one happens. You need that content available, tagged, rights managed, transacted, out to buyers all around the world. That has to happen in a matter of seconds, which it does through an agentic workflow.
Yep.
But that's grounded in a decade of data backing it right now. So we're trying to speed it up appropriately, right? We're trying to create the best experience we can for all these sports leagues and customers right now. It comes with a lot of layers and levels that most people don't want to talk about: security, governance, control. But the moment that breaks down, we all have problems, right? So it's all happening behind the scenes, even though we want to get more content to fans on more platforms. We want to generate more revenue for the IP rights holders. But all that has to come with the work that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah. When you talk about those moments, the hole in one, that was the second time in the Masters, right? And when UConn hit the shot against Duke to go into the Final Four, they have a history of, lots of drama. So it gets to being able to retrieve an older highlight and bring that up. So you've got a side-by-side story. So semantic search on older tag data and being able to make that asset available very quickly for storytelling is an important piece of it.
A couple of weeks. Who watched March Madness? Whose team did well? Dave's team was Michigan. He did very well. But how many game-winning shots were there? How many moments were there? How many storming of the courts? How many underdog moments were happening? That is all getting tagged and indexed into the systems and the workflows so that thousands of people can use it and leverage it for all their different use cases today. It's only going to keep happening, right? We're seeing this incredible curve of live sports. We were just talking before, the amount of like new live sports that are emerging all around the world. I don't even know if I consider half of them sports, but it's fascinating. So there is a consumer demand for more live sports that are happening. There's a demand within companies and rights holders for access to both the real-time and near real-time information, as well as all of their archival data. There's a need to reinvent and have transformation occurring. But all of that, again, change management happens with the right controls in place.
So next level automation and interoperability. I just want to talk about that. We can't go in a panel session without talking about agentic AI. So let's pivot to that. I'm just curious, Mark, can you just maybe give a foundation for us of what is agentic AI on AWS? What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the building blocks of agentic AI is these MCP servers everyone probably hears about, right? It's Model Context Protocol Server. And essentially what they do is they expose what they call a list of tools to a model. So it could be something that gives you, what were all the game-winning plays, or like who just fouled recently, or so that MCP server, the LLM talks to an MCP server and says, "Hey, give me your list of tools and a description for those tools," so that then the large language model or your agentic piece of code can make decisions on its own and use the proper tools it needs. Beyond that, we also have a technology called Agent Core. And what Agent Core is it's largely a runtime for your agents. So you're not we always call it the undifferentiated heavy lifting. Like, you're not building all this code to take and package a container and scale that container up and down. It has things for, like, we talked about security, right? Like identification and authorization, right? Is this piece of code allowed to talk to this other service, right? You want to make sure that's secure and, your agent doesn't go off and do something it shouldn't do. The other thing is there's something called Agent Core memory. And, I think we all know, as we talk to a large language model, that context, it grows, right? And it grows a little bit too much over time. And, a computer can only hold so much in memory. But so what Agent Core memory is doing in the background is, as you're having a conversation or your agentic piece of code, it's, remembering the context over time. It's doing memory compaction in the background. And then again, like, taking care of something like you don't have to worry or care about. Another thing that's really good too is, you can also see and kind of, track what your agents are doing in real time. Cause, you probably know, you guys probably have the number of agents you have just grows over time, and you have to be able to monitor them and see what they're doing over time. So that's sort of the tech we have right now at AWS for doing
and an orchestration layer, right?
Yes,
to be able to control agents and coordinate tasks.
And that's kind of what I mean, right? We now have a world where every day, how many open source models are coming out? How many third-party models within Bedrock are coming out, right? How many fine-tuned models that are happening today? That's just today. What's going to happen when you rebuild your systems 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now? I mean, it's just seismically changing, right? So you need the flexibility right now to be able to plug and play models. We use the term orchestration for that. There's lots of other ways, right, of handling it, but it's so critical right now because I think we truly believe the models are getting a bit commoditized. Right? Everyone here, again, there's a lot of intelligence for this and intelligence for that. Well, what are you going to do with the intelligence? We're starting to hit the point of taking action against it. All these use cases we're talking about. What's the best way to take action against it? Is driving revenue. That's what everybody wants to see. Are you making more money or are you spending less? There's nothing in the middle anymore.
Yeah. Makes sense. So Mark, we have a developer tool for agentic AI too. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's heard of Kiro, but Peter has. Awesome. I have. It's an amazing piece of technology. Essentially what it is, it's an IDE, that's agentic, and you can essentially start talking to it, like vibe code with it. And and you start to build up a bunch of requirements for some piece of software you want to build. I built something recently where, Peter's talking about all these models. I built something that could, and I'm a back end, sort of developer, and you asked me to build a user interface. I'm just useless. So I had to build me a front end where I could pick a model, an image generation model. And then in the back end, some models were on Bedrock, somewhere else where I had to spin up an endpoint in SageMaker. But anyway, so what you're doing is you're talking to Kiro, you're going back and forth and telling it, hey, I'm going to build this user interface and I need a drop down in this interface. And for the models that aren't in Bedrock, I need you to spin up like SageMaker endpoints. So you're building this list of requirements. And then at some point you kind of have what you need. And the next step is for Kiro to do a design on that. So what it's doing is it's taking all your requirements and starting to build the architecture for what it's going to build. So maybe you're going to use Agent Core, maybe you're going to use Bedrock agents, or you're going to use Lambda, or whatever you're going to use. Kiro is starting to build out that design. So you have two markdown documents. You have your requirements, and then you have your design. And then after that, you can talk to Kiro and say, all right, I'm ready to go. Like, just start building, this piece of code. And, I love automation. So I told it I also wanted CDK, and I wanted to be able to just, say CDK deploy and deploy this in AWS. And gosh, I've been writing software since I was like 13 or something crazy, so like to be able to use something like Kiro and to tell it to build something. I mean, this would have taken me weeks, months to build something like this. And in 2 days, I had a prototype, to help a customer. And it's, if you haven't used Kiro, it's an amazing way to write software these days.
It's pretty amazing, yeah. And we can have the ability to create this intelligence layer on top of solid infrastructure for broadcast, AI for broadcast, data structures, and now have this intelligence layer on top of it. So Lisa, is there an agentic strategy at Lumen?
So, we're the infrastructure layer, right? I would say, so we've talked about latency, which is key. Security, we've talked to, it's table stakes, stay off the public internet. What we haven't addressed is the fragmentation that can come into play with all of this, right? Rights holders don't want to think about, wait a minute, I've got the edge, I've got the network, I've got the cloud, I've got, Veritone, I've got all these different parts. They really want something that's sort of a turnkey white glove offering. And so I think AWS has been so wonderful with how you work with partners. We see partners as a necessary part of our ecosystem, so even just having this panel with all of us together, I think sort of foreshadows what's to come about how easily these things will be delivered. And I think that's really key for all of it.
Yeah, super exciting. So Peter, I want to take us home. Like, what is the agentic strategy at Veritone? What does this next generation of tools in your roadmap look like?
Yeah, I mean, we're showcasing a lot of those intelligent tools. Two booths over that way, little plug. But at the same time, right, we're looking at complete workflow automation, right? So I said it from the beginning, and maybe that's a good way to wrap it, right? From ingest to invoice, we need to agentically be able to identify the exact moment that is coming in at that given time. We have sets of rules around all of that new content and all of that archival content. We have rules behind the scenes, those agents working like you had talked about, that knows every single buyer in the entire world right now with all that historical data. So that again, that second that game-winning shot happens, it goes out to every single person that needs to know about that shot and every shot that happened before it, all in seconds, right? And if we can speed up that process and make everybody's lives faster and easier, it's going to be a win-win for it all.
Yeah, time to value for sure. That's the goal for everybody. I think we have a few more minutes if there are any questions out in the crowd.
Correct. At scale, right? So we've seen a lot of scenarios where it's easy in small samples, right? To just take something in and just process it. But you're talking about 150,000 hours a day of processing with the accuracy that's necessary, right? Especially in sports at a rights level, right? Got to be incredibly accurate across the board or the entire infrastructure breaks.
Any other questions over here?
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. That's much better. Are you seeing a lot of adoption with agentic AI with your customers or your partners that you work with, or is this fairly like a new technology that's just starting to get kind of a foothold?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'll maybe take it first. So I'm a partner solutions architect, work a lot with partners. And yeah, I think every single partner, like over the last year, has been building sort of agentic infrastructure that helps with the automation. I think, initially it seemed like maybe it was a buzzword, but now it's real people doing, real coding with these agents. And it's not slowing down for sure.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing for technology partners. I'm walking around and visiting booths, and they're feature sets that are agentic driven in technology for sure. And I work with consulting partners as well, and they're working with customers, and this is production ready automation today. And
You guys see, maybe I'll do a follow up to your own question for you guys. Do you see it as single point solutions of it, or do you see it at an infrastructure level, right? Because I think we see it, we've seen it both ways. These systems are 20 and 30 years old. It's not easy to just go in and rip the whole thing up, start all over again. Like we've seen issues with it happen day in and day out, right? So there's, to me, a lot of interesting single point solutions to everything. At a deeper infrastructure legacy system world, I think we'd all like it to get to that point. It just takes time. Change management takes time.
yeah, I agree. What I'm seeing is it's use case level. So it's taking features or a solution and being able to automate small tasks and then being able to build on that and orchestrate agents across multiple tasks. So it's just building on that foundation.
I think it also removes a lot of the dependencies in a lot of the organizations now too, right? You're not having to wait for somebody downstream or parallel to you within the organization. Kind of touched upon your inference level a little bit there, but it's making everything a little bit more democratized, right? You used to not be able to find that piece of information, or that data, or that file, right? Go down the funnel and up the funnel, and 2 weeks later, somebody would have it, right? It's completely democratized access to a lot of this information, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think we see it too. Like you said, there's these older legacy systems that, maybe you have this huge form you have to fill out and it's really tedious. Now they're starting to build agentic workflows on top of that, where you can talk to an agent, the chatbot, and it helps you fill in this form that normally in the past was super tedious. So yeah, it starts at, a small level, just a feature or two, and then you're building out that, larger sort of agentic infrastructure to do more and more things over time, within this large code base.
If we've seen, we'll move away for sports for a second. If human resource groups within organizations can handle agentic tools and workflows, right, which has always been the biggest challenge department for new technology, anybody can handle it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we have time for one more question.
Okay, as we add more AI into our data processing workflows, what type of testing frameworks are you seeing and recommending so that as we change models or different improvements, we're able to actually check the accuracy over time?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's interesting. Some of what we see are, I'll give you an image generation example. I had a partner that was reskinning online games. And so they had a number of different prompts for those images that they were generating. So they were using some automation, and it was, just basically some Python code along with Claude. But, they then were building up this group of test cases that they could regenerate those images, but then they're also taking the images they generate and running those back through Claude to make sure that, that is actually the image they want to see. So it's interesting. It's almost like a recursive loop of other models to check against the current models that you're evaluating, if that makes sense.
If you've not seen the RL gyms, more on the technical, deep technical side, it is fascinating. Spend 5 minutes in that world of seeing all the simulations that are going on, A/B testing your website, to your workflows, to your model development. You can see where everything's going pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say one more thing too, with Agent Core, and you're starting to see this too. There's a browser, there's browser functionality. It's the same kind of thing, right? You can have it literally Claude kind of walk through your user interface, your website, and, do that quality assurance that you need.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Team Veritone, for having us be part of the panel.
Thank you.